If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we live in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
Crisis in America. A race to a vaccine.
And you can save lives with this.
New cases climbing, more shutdowns happening.
You need somebody out there explaining all this to the public.
How close are we to a medical breakthrough that will get this virus under control?
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. I have to show you this because obviously one of the main things I talk about on this channel is repetition and repetition and repetition, how they normalize things. If you don't understand how that works, just think of how normal it's becoming now for people to be wearing masks out in public. That even when they decide, if they say, well, you have the shot in a year from now and you're immune to it, people are still going to be used to wearing it because all it takes is just to break them in, to beat it into their head, and to make them fear taking it off and hearing it over and over and over again to normalize it. Now it's normal for people to not stand within 6 feet of each other. That's how quickly this has happened in the last few months. That's how normal it is for people to go to the store and automatically know to grab their mask, just like grabbing your phone. Don't forget your phone or your mask, right? That's how mind control and propaganda works. And one of the things that I'm seeing over and over again with the repetition is obviously the vax, right? No brainer. Everybody sees it. Anyone with a brain should be able to see it. And if you don't have a brain and you don't see it, here's what you're missing. The fact of the matter is all these talking heads on television who keep popping up, from Dr. Oz to Bill Gates and so forth, for years people like me have been calling them out with the flu shot. They've openly admitted that everybody needs to get this, but they won't give it to their own wife and their own children. Here's Dr. Oz out of his own mouth in regards to the flu shot. And here's what he says today about it and what a hypocrite this guy is.
You are telling a mother who is trying to decide myself whether to get my kids vaccinated when the time comes. And I'm reading this, 51% of parents, only 51% are absolutely certain. I'll be honest, I'm in that 50% that isn't absolutely certain. So how do you convince me? How do you convince the other parents out there that we need to do this?
Campbell, I'm going to get it.
Yes.
If that helps at all. But I'll tell you, my wife is not going to immunize our kids. Because I've got 4 of them, and when I go home, I'm not Dr. Oz, I'm Mr. Oz.
Look, you are telling a mother who is trying to decide myself whether to get my kids vaccinated when the time comes. And I'm reading this, 51% of parents, only 51% are absolutely certain. I'll be honest, I'm in that 50% that isn't absolutely certain. So how do you convince me? How do you convince the other parents out there that we need to do this?
Campbell, I'm going to get it.
Yes.
If that helps at all. But I'll tell you, my wife is not going to immunize our kids. Because I've got 4 of them, and when I go home, I'm not Dr. Oz, I'm Mr. Oz.
10% of folks get the flu every year. You're rolling the dice, my friend.
I love gambling, dude.
It's not just about you, it's about herd immunity. You ever hear that? Herd immunity? Not the 70s anymore. This vaccine's a lot safer.
Look, I know the vaccine's safer, and I am informed, but I'm just lazy, okay? I'll get to it.
You should get it right now.
I said I'll get to it.
You know, a lot of people don't get the flu vaccine until their friends get sick, and it's too late. Hit me, hit me.
Look, you are telling a mother who is trying to decide myself whether to get my kids vaccinated when the time comes. And I'm reading this, 51% of parents, only 51% are absolutely certain. I'll be honest, I'm in that 50% that isn't absolutely certain. So how do you convince me? How do you convince the other parents out there that we need to do this?
Campbell, I'm going to get it.
Yes.
If that helps at all. But I'll tell you, my wife is not going to immunize our kids. Because I've got 4 of them, and when I go home, I'm not Dr. Oz, I'm Mr. Oz.
So let me get this straight. He will get it himself, but he wouldn't give it to his wife or his kids. But he, as somebody who is supposed to be trusted in the public's eye, of course, because he's friends with Oprah, right? Public figures who are worshipped by the herd community. They go, oh, well, Dr. Oz says to do it. He says to eat kale, too. We should eat kale. Everything he says we should listen to and do. Then why don't people listen and go, well, wait a minute. Why wouldn't he give it to his own kids, his own wife? He'll take it himself. But why wouldn't he make them? And then he says how we all need to be responsible and take it. And I'm going to show you what he's saying about the C-19. And, you know, his show now is pretty much dedicated to obviously talking about this, how to up the pace. They're calling it the race for the vax, which is a joke because it's already here. There is no cure for something that doesn't exist. It's here because what it is it's poison. And it's chemicals that are going to depopulate and make people sicker. It's going to increase autism, Alzheimer's, and other things people don't realize. They don't care. They think because as soon as the media comes out and says everybody's starting to get the shot, and look, the statistics go down, all the zombies just believe it, they follow it, and they think it's real, and then they applaud whoever it is who came up with it, like Bill Gates. They make them into heroes, and there's a small percentage of us who say there was nothing to cure in the first place, that this was all a facade. These are the same people who tell you they wouldn't even get their own kids vaccinated. A funny side story before I get into this one. I've covered this before in the past. Bill Gates' doctor even came out in the record years ago. I'm talking 3, 4, 5 years ago. Articles were popping up where he was saying that Bill Gates himself would not get his kids any type of shot put into their body. And then now, if you actually research that article, it's completely scrubbed from the internet. In March, April, I guess February, March, April, May, the entire internet came up with just stories trying to debunk it, from Reuters right on down, saying, oh, it's a made-up story, it's a made-up story, it's a made-up story, it's a made-up story. Before that, they never did, but they wanted to make sure if anybody researched that, if Gates did that to his own family, that story wouldn't pop up. When in fact, there were plenty of articles, and we all covered it in the, well, I don't know if we all covered it. I know I covered that in the past. Now, this story with Dr. Oz, who, that's him just openly about the flu and the flu shot. There's an article in People magazine that came out about 2 weeks ago. Getting a seasonal flu shot needs to, it will reduce the risk of developing Alzheimer's. Seasonal. So it means 4 times a year. Not once, 4 times. Now, they've been on the record, as you even heard there, saying that there's a 50% chance it works, 50% it doesn't, which means that they don't have to be responsible or accountable because they can go, yeah, it didn't work on you, but it worked on so-and-so, 50-50. Then they tell you to do something and put some. Would you put something in your body if you knew there was a 50% chance you could live or die? If somebody was like, hey, here's this pill on this table, you get a really good buzz for about 2 hours, or you could die in 5 minutes. Is it worth it? Or what if they were like, you could live 2 years and feel incredible, but then you're dead? Would you do it? Of course not. Unless there was some absolute person who's probably already high and took it. Otherwise, you would never do that to your own body. Now, in this article that talks about, I mean, it's hilarious because the flu shot, these shots are the reason that there's an increase in Alzheimer's and all these other diseases, as well as the chemtrails and the aluminum that they're pouring on people. But in this article, they specifically quote Dr. Oz, and he's talking about how he wished he knew. He said he completely missed the signs of his mother who had Alzheimer's, right? As if we're supposed to believe that. And he said he wished he knew what to look for in the first place, even though this is the guy who is a trusted doctor on TV, just like Fauci. And they tell you, don't wear a mask, don't wear a mask, don't wear a mask. It should be mandatory to wear a mask. They contradict their stories every time they talk. They don't even have the same narrative every time they talk. Yet people still trust in them, and they don't want to listen to any other voices. And then when people like me talk about this stuff and show you them contradicting themselves, we get shut off. We get shut down. We're not allowed to talk about it because we're dangerous threats to the world, because all we're doing is showing what they're saying. So that's one of the stories that's out there, is that saying getting more shots every year, flu shots and other shots, will decrease Alzheimer's, which is a complete and utter joke. That's the reason it's increased, like I said, along with chemtrails. And then you have Dr. Oz with the race to get the shot. It's a race, and oh man, who's going to be first in line? And these are the people who are in the forefront for it. Dr. Oz, Bill Gates, Oprah, right? Remember all the celebrities I covered? Holding up the sign, stay home, hashtag stay home. They're the ones who are here to be the influencers, to influence the sheep and herd the sheep. They even mock us and they say, oh, this herd immunity. They're talking about a herd mentality. They're herding society into this. And like I said from the get-go, just think about February, right? It's been a crazy year. I can't even believe we're already at the end of August and into the fall. And we've been pretty much locked. Most of us have been locked up since February. And I don't mean locked up, but there's so many places shut down, there's nowhere to even go. And if you have to go somewhere, you got to wear a mask in most states. Not all of them, but most of them. And most of you have to deal with that. Think about this. When this first started in February, we were laughing at it, saying there's no chance that people are going to go along and wear the mask. Now it's like, if you're the one in the store without it on, you're a freak. You're a horrible person. You're a danger to society. You're a terrorist in your own country. That's how crazy it's gotten. But that's how they normalize stuff like this, because even if they go, okay, there's a little pullback because now we have a shot and we don't have to make it mandatory off the bat. If you're someone who doesn't have the shot, you're still going to have to wear the mask. And there's going to be people who get the shot and still wear the mask because they're so dumb and they're so dumbed down and they don't even know how to look at statistics and realize that everything is inflated, that more people die of many other things, that there's nothing to fear, but they just see the world around them on the news. That's it. They don't look out their window. They see the news. They say, oh, there's no concerts, there's no sports, there's no TV shows. They're not doing late nights. They're doing late night Zooms, right? And they're just, preparing people to be more and more separated from one another. But isn't it funny how these people like Dr. Oz even openly, I don't know, maybe they're on adrenochrome highs when they're doing these interviews. And they openly just go, yeah, my wife and my kids don't get it. Yet they're lecturing us on why we should give it to ourselves and our own kids. Are we all right? And then we sit there and we don't go, you know what, F this guy. Get him off the TV. Screw him. They're contradicting their own words, just like I showed you with Fauci and what he said over and over about the mask in the beginning. Oh, no one should wear it. It's worse if you wear it because you touch your face and then you touch your mask and and you're spreading it. And nobody goes, yeah, wow, they do contradict themselves. The whole thing is an utter joke. I wish people would wake up, but they won't. They won't because they believe and trust in the news. They believe and trust in their government. They believe and trust that there's an actual republic going on here when there's not. Like I've said a million times, it's a science experiment. I want to remind everyone, please check out my website at callforuprising.com. If you're someone who's subscribed and you've been unsubscribed, please make sure you resubscribe if you still, if you like and use the site. Sometimes it doesn't do the automatic resubscribe, or there's always glitches in these websites that you create these, whatever you call them, the templates you go through or the sites you go through or the back end of it. So I apologize if anyone's been unsubscribed. I got a lot of emails from people who said they were unsubscribed and they didn't unsubscribe. Just, subscribe again, I guess, and make sure you, click. There's an area in your account section to make sure you're automatically renewed every month if you want to be, or not. You don't have to be. So check it out if you haven't checked it out. A lot of stuff going on over there. And I want to thank all the patrons again and all of you who support the channel on YouTube. Thank you for having a brain. Thank you guys for being my friend. And thank you guys for being like-minded. And it gives me a small amount of relief in this nightmare of a world that there are people like you guys out there who think like I do, who are aware of things like I am and you are, and we're all equal and struggling in this thing together. But obviously we have faith and we have hope. We know that the trumpets are going to sound soon, and that's really what matters most. But watching this world deteriorate and watching these people buy into it, it's just draining at times. So I thank you guys again. Love all of you. God bless you and your families.